Well, I don't know where you are today, but where I am, it was 10 degrees, so this is a hoodie sermon. Welcome to Trinity Place. My name's Cameron Miller. This is a reflection on readings for Epiphany, in particular, Mark 21 through 28. So, to pick up on the theme of storytelling that got sort of started last week, whoever wrote the Gospel of Mark understood that every good story crackles with tension. A story without tension will put us to sleep. And by the way, Mark, who is the featured gospel editor for this year, is by far the best storyteller of the four canonical Gospels. Today I will point to one literary feature of Mark, which is that he employs something that the other editors did not, but he is also more immediate and thrifty in his storytelling. And not by coincidence, his is the earliest and the shortest gospel. So the tension in this story, which is critical to its telling, may be suspense or conflict or dread, but whatever the tension, it keeps the audience guessing or somehow wondering what's going to happen next. Mark has a narrative feature, someone somewhere labeled the Messianic secret. Here's how it works in Mark's narration. The bad guys know who Jesus is, but the good guys don't. So, for example, right from the very beginning, which we see in today's story, the demons recognize Jesus right away, and so do his persecutors, like Pontius Pilate and the centurion at the cross. But those who should recognize who and what Jesus is usually do not. Now, Jesus' own family did not recognize who he was. And in fact, in chapter 3 of Mark, Mark includes this incident that hardly gets ever talked about in churches that I can tell, and in which Jesus' mother sends his brothers and his sisters to get him and bring him home because they think that Jesus is possessed. They think he's possessed by a demon, Beelzebub, the king of devils. And if that doesn't resonate with your understanding of the relationship between Jesus and his mother, then it's probably because you haven't read Mark very closely. In Mark, there is no idyllic mother-son relationship, and the family dysfunction is hanging out there for the entire world to see. It's part of the editorial tension and causes the reader to remember one's own family issues. Now, another example is that Jesus' besties and bros don't recognize him either. We would think that his students and his close friends would be all over it, but not very much. Jesus' disciples, including Martha and Mary and the other Mary, not his mom, continually misunderstand Jesus. They do not get the meaning of his pointed parables either. They stand by right next to him, and as the bad guys and the demons say stuff that should be a clue, his buddies sort of remain clueless. Now, all of this is part of the editorial tension. It makes us curious and it makes us impatient to find out, well, when are they going to get it? Or if they will ever get it. And if they don't come to see it, why not? It's the same with the religious leaders and the wise ones that come through in Mark's narrative. They don't understand Jesus either. It seems like they should, as they earnestly inquire and make hostile challenges and openly condemn Jesus. Mark's audience is always asking, why can't they see what we see about Jesus? It's a great feature for a novel. It's part of the tension, again, of putting us up against Jesus' detractors, us, the readers or the audience, and wondering what would happen to us. And would we perceive Jesus if we didn't have Mark to tell us the story first? So from the very first sentence in Mark's gospel, we're told that Jesus is the Messiah, the Christ. And all through the story, bad guys know it, good guys don't. And either they come to it slowly or fight it tooth and nail all along the way. That's the tension. So today's story captures the Messianic secret perfectly. Everybody is wowed by Jesus, who, it says, speaks as one with authority, meaning his voice, what he says, and where it comes from within him is powerful and it's compelling. But this is confusing to the hometown crowd because they know Jesus. Capernaum is where Jesus had his house. It's where he works. And he has been there among his neighbors in their little synagogue hundreds of times. Now he speaks. Now all of a sudden he's got something to say. Now he's going to preach to us. So they know this guy, but have never really heard him talk like this before. They know him. Bought pomegranates and figs from him yesterday. Now he talks like this. They might even have thought he sounded good. Made a lot of sense. In fact, it's that he was incredibly compelling that raises their antenna. They aren't quite sure he should be teaching them. Where did he get all this stuff anyway? Who died and left him king? So, you and I know this tension. We know what Mark is provoking here because we felt it ourselves, I'm sure, many times. Sometime or another, listening to someone speak from the pulpit or the television or reading them in journals or newspapers or books. When someone that we're listening to or reading or digesting in some way has a resonant voice that seems to arise from a place of knowing, and yet it's telling us something we disagree with or don't want to hear or suspect isn't true in some way, but we don't really want to hear what's being said to us. When that happens, we get confused. We confuse ourselves so that we don't have to listen. We get conflicted. It's when our knowing and our unknowing attack each other. When expectations are taking hits from unexpected people and places, it makes us teeter just a little bit, and we don't like it. And that's what's going on in the audience at the synagogue as Mark describes it. And then suddenly, a demon appears. Get back, Jack! Don't hurt us, Jesus! We're out of here. Just leave us alone, the demon says. Now, with the appearance of a demon, there are two little things to notice in the exchange between good guys and bad guys. First, it's plural. More than one demon. We're not left to guess about how powerful Jesus is because he has just taken on a whole company of demons and lived to brag about it. Mark is reminding his readers, us, about Jesus, even though those around him are confused. We know who he is, right? Then Jesus says to the flock of demons, shh, don't tell anybody. That's the secret part of the Messianic secret. Mark leaves very little doubt that Jesus doesn't want people to know who he is or what he is. And there's this tension. We want to know, why the secret? Why wouldn't you want people to know who you are, Jesus? Isn't that why you came in the first place? Hey, enjoy the celebrity while you got it. What's wrong with a little fame? Don't hide your light under a bushel, we might say to him. Well, that tension goes to the grave with Jesus, or the tomb as the case may be. Mark never resolves it for us, nor does he tell us why Jesus wants it to be a mystery. We're left to guess and to conjecture and to proclaim as if we know when we don't really know. Nobody really knows. So there's this disturbing yet wonderfully compelling idea embedded in the gospel. It also offers us an unexpected turn if we're brave enough to take it. If we think of the demons as part of ourselves that we're probably afraid of, then what might we learn if we got curious to know what our demons are afraid of? It's a bit like a double negative. If we identify what our demons fear, will it lead us to something good? I tested that out on myself. So one of my demons is the voice of the critical parent. The critical parent is fault-finding and never, ever satisfied. It's the voice that rains on the parade when someone else offers us positive feedback. Oh, well, thanks, we say, but immediately we say to ourselves, yeah, but you didn't see what I missed or what I could have accomplished if I had done it right in the first place. I suspect you know that voice that I'm talking about, even if it's only a solo voice for you rather than the Mormon Tabernacle Choir inside my head. But what if we asked what the critical parent is afraid of? What does he or she fear? This hypercritical voice inside operates from a rigid worldview with a prescription for how to do things. Prescriptive thinking fears its own undoing. Prescriptive thinking fears its own undoing. To accept that one is loved and affirmed with all the imperfections and foibles and failures is to melt the brittle mold of right and wrong, good and bad, perfect and incomplete. What this critical demon fears is the loss of control and security glued in place by its own prescriptions. Very likely, prescriptions are inherited from previous generations of critical parents. For us to listen to what our demons fear gives us a little hint of what we might need to, of where we might need to walk. If our demons fear the light, then perhaps that's where we need to go. If our demons demand to stand in the light, only the light, perhaps they fear the darkness and we would do well to explore the shadows. In the story of Mark, it's the demon and the bad guys that guide us to discover who Jesus is and what he came for. Lo and behold, in an odd and sneaky way, that may be true for us as well. Perhaps being curious about our demons and what they fear can lead us to know ourselves and what we are here for. Like Jesus' audience in Mark, when we come to these stories with our own ideas about what it means and what it should say and how it should end, we might be blinding ourselves to what is actually there in the story. Our preset ideas, inherited from voices of many angels and demons in the past, may cause us to miss the voice of Jesus from its dance between the text and our lives. Our preset ideas can cause us to resist the voice of authority when it speaks to us because it does not sound like what we expected it to. It doesn't say things that we thought it should say. Or it stirs confusion in us with the tension between what we expected to hear and what we're actually hearing. When that happens, perhaps what we need to do is look around for our demons and listen to them. Listen to them. The demons that chatter within us and those that squawk in the world all around us, what are they afraid of? Perhaps we should get curious about their fear and see if maybe, just maybe, there's some wisdom hiding in there with our names on it. That's what I'm thinking today. I hope that it offers you some growth, some healing, some wellness somewhere along the way.